Gracious Jesus, you're making it very difficult on us. I'm telling you. You want us to follow you, but boy, oh boy, you feel it? I'm just like, wow, what does you mean in here? What do you mean here, Savior? We're in that little stretch of the Gospel of Luke where, Jesus is really hitting us hard with the cost of discipleship, what it means. 3 weeks ago, we had him saying, look, I came to create division, not peace. That doesn't sound right. And then 2 weeks ago, he says that, guess what? Only a few of you are going to be saved. Boy, he's really making it tough. And then last week, what does he say? He says, don't sit, at the highest point in the table. Sit at the lowest point, that point of humility. He really wants us to come down to a certain level, doesn't he? And then what does he do today? Oh, my goodness. He says, you can't follow me unless you hate your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your children, your husband, your wife, and even your own life. Your own life. Again, he just doesn't make sense. I want to say again, Jesus, you're off your rocker, all right? No lightning yet, okay, so I guess I'm good for a few minutes. But we've said this before. You've heard this even. Father Dave talks about it. He is really trying to express something to us and challenge us. And he uses what's called hyperbole, kind of an exaggeration to drive home his message, to drive home his point about what it means to follow him and the cost of following him. Now, no, he's not saying go ahead and hate all these other people, okay? Don't hate all these people in your life. He's not saying that. It has nothing to do with hate. It's sort of a Hebrew idiom. The meaning of hate in the Aramaic is a little bit different. It doesn't really mean dislike, much like I dislike the Buckeyes, it has nothing to do with that. I didn't say Spartans there, John, so I've kept that out of it. But it's not so much about dislike. What he really means when he's using that word hate, he's using the expression love less. Love those things less and love me more. Love those things less, the people in your lives, the possessions in your lives. Love them less and put me at the top. And I promise you, when you put me at the top, all else is going to flow into place. All else is going to flow, and if you put him at the top, if you put God first in your life, you put Jesus first in your life, you put his teachings first in your life, he says you're going to have a better life. You're going to have better relationships. You're going to be better at the things that you do. That's the cost of discipleship. Following him is hard, but it's going to be better. It's going to be better. That's the point that he's trying to make right here, and it's so important that we understand that. He's not making it that difficult. He just says, look, love me, and see where your life goes. I was with the men's fellowship, yesterday morning, and we were talking about this, and of course they were scratching their heads too, and, just wondering, really, what does Jesus mean about all of this? And, I talked with him and shared that whole thought about loving things less and putting him first, but at the same time, I also have this question in my mind. So what does it mean to love Jesus? What does it mean to love God? Because you have people that you're sitting with right now that you spend a lot of time with, and you love them. All right, you love them by showing that language of love, whatever it might be, to those people that are around you and in your life. It might be doing things for them. I guess when it comes for me, when I love God and I try to show my love for God, it means loving the people around me. It means doing what he calls us to do. It means serving others. It means doing for the people in your life and even the people that you don't know so well in your life. That's the way I see loving God. Because Jesus does tell us, what are the two greatest commandments but to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. It just kind of flows naturally from that is loving God to showing love to the people around you. And of course, it's not always so easy because we have those moments especially in this second reading where St. Paul is writing to his friend and he's saying, look, I know Onesimus hurt you. I know Onesimus left you and ran away from you and did wrong to you. But the Christian way, is to put that aside and to say, I forgive you, and to show mercy. Because that does happen. I always tell young couples as I'm preparing them for marriage that guess what? That person that you're looking to go to the altar with, that you want to spend the rest of your life with, I promise you, they're going to disappoint you. And you're going to disappoint them. It happens. It happens. But it doesn't mean you respond with retaliation. It doesn't mean you respond with resentment. It means you respond as a Christian does, and that is choosing the path of forgiveness. That's what it means to love. To love above all those moments of disappointment, but you still love. It's not always that easy, trust me. I know. But that's what we strive for. But when we put God first, as Jesus is telling us to, and making that the most important part of our day and the important part of our lives, I tell you, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier. I promise you that. Every once in a while, we might get letters as preachers. We might get emails from people as preachers where people are kind of saying to us, they're not too happy with what we said. They're not too happy about how we're preaching. He gets a lot more than I do. But there's times when we get this, and I'm going to tell you, we're not up here to just give you the teaching. We're not up here to just give you the catechism. We're not up here to just give you the commandments or what, God calls us to do, okay? Because there's an old saying that says, you know what? You have to catch them before you clean them. And sometimes people want us to clean them before we catch them. And I can tell you that isn't always the way that we need to go. The messages that we sometimes give up here, I can tell you, are more about catching you. Because I can tell you, even in my own life, and I've shared my vocation story with you. I grew up Catholic. I grew up Catholic schools and, learned it all and went through everything, the Bible and the catechism. I knew all that stuff. I can tell you it didn't mean a whole lot to me. It didn't. Now, it guided my life. It helped me to make the right choices and decisions, but because God was not at the center of my life, it just seemed to be a check the box. And when I came to Mass and those stages of my life, none of this made sense. But I can tell you the day that I started to say Jesus is number one, God is number one in my life, oh my gosh, all of this started to make sense to me. And I knew why I came to Mass. I knew why I read the Bible. I knew why I prayed. It's like Father Dave said last week, sometimes, people don't go to church for the right reasons. But the day that they come to church because they need a Savior in their life, that's when their life changes. And it's because we realize, like Jesus is telling us to do right here, put me number one. Put me at the top. And you'll be surprised that all of this just makes so much more sense in our lives. And we need this. We don't need to check a box. When he's number one, we realize the importance of him number one, and all else flows from there. Trust me, my brothers and sisters, I have to remind myself every day. Because I can tell you, in this line of work, sometimes it can be so routine that I'm just doing the things because, again, I'm supposed to. And I have to step back and slap myself sometimes and remind me that I'm doing this because I need a Savior in my life. I need to put God first. I hope today that maybe you ask yourself that question. Is he number one? Is he number one? Because that's what he's telling you. Love the other things in your life less and love me more. Because when you love me more, all of this makes sense. All of this makes sense. And that wisdom of God, it leads us to purpose. It leads us to meaning. Now, like I always say, doesn't mean your life is going to be perfect. You listen to St. Paul. You want to know what it means to live a life as a devout Christian and to put God first? Do you think his life was perfect? No, he lived with pain. He lived with struggle. You know, if you look at 2 Corinthians and you read that story in there that talks about when he said, I have a thorn, and, you know, Satan put this thorn in my body, and 3 times he asked God, remove this thorn, remove this thorn, remove this thorn. And God looked at him and said, no, because my grace is enough. My grace is enough. And even in that weakness, I will be strong in you, and you will be strong. Put him first. Put him first. And all this makes sense. All this makes sense.